वेलकम बैक टू माय ऑफिशियल यूट्यूब चैनल। दिस इज गौरव यूट्यूब चैनल में आप सभी लोग का स्वागत है। तो आज जो टॉपिक है हमारा काफी थोड़ा हटकर इसीलिए है क्योंकि अभी अभी वर्ल्ड टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप फाइनल खत्म हुआ है, जो 2019 से 2021 तक का चला। अब जो हम लोगों ने टॉपिक चुना है फिर से वर्ल्ड टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप को लेकर ही है, पर आपको पता है कि फिर से वर्ल्ड टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप स्टार्ट होने वाला है। किस टीम के कितने मैचेस होंगे, कौन सी टीम किसके साथ खेलेगी, कितने होम मैचेस होंगे उस टीम के, कितने अवे मैचेस होंगे, उस पे हम लोग डिस्कशन करेंगे आज के शो पे। तो स्टार्ट करते हैं। थोड़ी देर के बाद हमारे कुछ गेस्ट भी ज्वाइन हो जाएंगे तो उस पे हम लोग डिस्कशन करेंगे। तो शो को आगे बढ़ाते हुए सबसे पहले हम लोग डिस्कशन करते हैं वर्ल्ड टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप को लेकर। 2021 से 2023 तक ये वर्ल्ड टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप जो दूसरा है वो खेला जाएगा। तो उसके ऊपर सबसे पहले डिस्कशन इसीलिए कर लेते हैं कि ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ एक ही बार हो चुका तो अब नहीं होगा। आगे आईसीसी ने अनाउंस कर दिया कि कुछ 5-6 सालों तक ये वर्ल्ड जो सर्किल है ना, वर्ल्ड टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप फाइनल, वर्ल्ड टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप का, वो चलते रहेगा। तो उसके बाद अब जो एक पहला वर्ल्ड टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप जो हुआ उसमें न्यूजीलैंड आराम से जीत गई, आप लोगों ने देखा। अब जो दूसरा होगा उसके भी अब स्क्वाड, मेरे ख्याल से जो ये टाइमिंग है, कौन किससे खेलेगा कौन किससे नहीं खेलेगा, वो भी निकल चुका है। तो चलिए सबसे पहले डिसाइड मतलब डिस्कस करते हैं टीम इंडिया का। टीम इंडिया कहां कहां मैच खेलेगी और किससे किससे मैच खेलेगी, इस पर डिस्कशन करते हैं। सबसे पहले टीम इंडिया मेरे ख्याल से अगर खेलेगी तो 2 टेस्ट मैच न्यूजीलैंड से घर में खेलेगी, 3 टेस्ट मैच सीरीज श्रीलंका से होम में खेलेगी, 4 टेस्ट मैच सीरीज ऑस्ट्रेलिया से फिर घर में खेलेगी। लेकिन जो सबसे पहले उनका सीरीज जो स्टार्ट हो जाएगा ना, वर्ल्ड टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप जो स्टार्ट हो जाएगा, वो ये जो 5 टेस्ट मैच इंग्लैंड में होगा उसी से स्टार्ट हो जाएगा। सो वी हैव लुकस ऑल अवे फ्रॉम ऑस्ट्रेलिया, एडिलेड. He has joined us from the show. Lucas, welcome back to my show.
Thank you very much for having me.
So how are you, mate?
I'm doing good. A little tired, but I said I'd be here, and I'm very excited to be a part of your show. Thank you.
Thank you very much, mate. So I was discussing with our viewers that the first World Test Championship final recently get over. So it doesn't mean that the other World Test Championship final won't be happening. I think ICC has already announced that from the again 5 years, the World Test Championship will be happening every year, every 2 years, right? So we are discussing that next World Test Championship schedule. So first of all, I was discussing about the Indian schedule, how much India gonna play in this 2 years. So first test match, the circle start from the 5 test matches against England. Okay, I will announce the schedule for the Indian team. You also have to take your point of view. The 2 test matches will be played in India will be playing at home with New Zealand. 2 test matches there will be, 3 test matches series versus Sri Lanka at home, 4 test match series versus Australia at home. Means Australia will be coming to India. That will be 4 test match series. 5 test match series versus England in away. England will be India will be playing with England, and 3 test matches series versus South Africa in away, and 2 test match series versus Bangladesh in away. So what's your take on that? So what do you think about India's World Test Championship circle that will be held on 2021 to 2023?
Well, that's a very good draw for India. They get that series against England at home and New Zealand as well, and they're away. They play Bangladesh.
I think India will be playing with England in away. The recent 5 Test match series that will be also counted in World Test Championship final.
Yeah, so I think outside of England, that's a very good draw. Their away match will be against Bangladesh. So they'll be very happy with that.
Exactly.
They get a test series against Sri Lanka also. They'll be happy with that. South Africa could be a little bit challenging outside because I know India have not won there in a very long time. In fact, I don't think they've won yet. Yeah. So that can be a little challenging, but South Africa are in rebuild mode. They're not where they once was. So I think that draw is extremely good for India. I think they'd be pushing again for another final. albeit what they do against England. England's batting lineup is also very fragile. They have big problems with their top order and their middle order. So if India can at least win a couple of tests, get some points, even if they don't win the series, I think they'd be very happy with the teams they play at home. And given that they play Bangladesh away, they'll be very happy with that as well.
And I think this is the best chance to win a series in South Africa. We haven't won any series in South Africa yet, and you have seen how South Africa is going around at the moment. They have lost lots of players, and they have lost recently series against Pakistan at their home backyard. So, don't you think this is the best time for India to win a series in South Africa?
Yeah, this is a fantastic time for India to finally win South Africa. They're going for a rebuild phase. Like England, I guess like India, they also have problems with their top order, middle order as well.
Exactly.
They recently played a test series against West Indies, and de Kock was probably arguably their best batsman in that series. We all understand that their bowling is very good with Rabada, Nortje.
Exactly.
They bowl extremely high pace, especially Nortje around the 150-kilometer mark. But their top order and openers is very exposed, and this is a great time for India to put pressure on their top order, middle order once again, and try to win their first ever series win in South Africa.
And what's your take in England? I think if you take my point of view, if our batting clicks in that period of time in England, I think this series will be starting from around August, and I think the pitches will get drier day by day, and there will be no much of swing. So I think this is the best time to win a series in England, and probably England are also will be trying to figure out what's their top order will be, who will be opening, who will play at number three. There are lots of issues. Sometimes Joe Root's play at number three. Sometimes Oli, even there have been too many options. Who can bat at number three? Oli, Pop, Jack Crowley. They have lots of options who can bat at number three. So don't you think they also had a problem with the top order? And this is the best time for Team India also to win a series after 2007. 2007, yeah, the last time we have won the series.
That's a very good point, and it is. You see their series against New Zealand. They had massive problems with their top order. Zach Crawley, Dom Sibley, Pope, Bracey. He made 2 ducks. So they've got problems with their middle order and top order as well. And Joe Root, he hasn't made 100 in England for 3 years. So they're very exposed. And once again, they're probably going to rely on their bowlers to bowl them a low target.
I think there is an eco issue. Soban, welcome back to my show.
Thank you.
I think there is an eco issue from your side. I
No,
request
no,
you
no.
to
No,
join
there is no echo issue.
once again.
No, there is no echo issue. I can hear you.
Okay, so Soban, I will talk to you in Hindi because most of the views are on Hindi,
No, we
are
can
the
continue in English.
Hindi also. So most of the viewers also want to listen in Hindi. Once we talk to Lucas, we will definitely speak in English. Lucas, I hope you don't mind we speak in Hindi with the other with Soban.
Fine. Continue.
Okay, we'll get back to you once again. So when I was saying, मैं ये बोल रहा था, sorry, मैं ये बोल रहा था कि जैसे वर्ल्ड टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप फाइनल, वर्ल्ड टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप 2021 से 2023 तक फिर से अनाउंस हो चुका है. टीम इंडिया का शेड्यूल मैं फिर से आपको बता दे रहा हूँ. 2 टेस्ट मैच खेलेगी घर में न्यूजीलैंड से, 3 टेस्ट मैच सीरीज श्रीलंका से फिर से होम में, 4 टेस्ट मैच सीरीज ऑस्ट्रेलिया से होम में, 5 टेस्ट मैच सीरीज इंग्लैंड से जो भी स्टार्ट हो जाएगा, फिर 3 टेस्ट मैच सीरीज साउथ अफ्रीका से अवे में, और 2 टेस्ट मैच सीरीज बांग्लादेश में. तो आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे इस पे?
Look, I'm very disappointed because if we look at the schedule, there's not a big change actually. If you like, I would also like to listen to Lucas because if you look at the schedule, there is no change. The big three are still dominating cricket. That's the big problem. I thought New Zealand, the number one side, should get a 3 or a 4 test match series. Even Australia, doesn't invite New Zealand to play the Test series.
Shobhan,
I mean,
Shobhan, we
I
will
mean,
definitely discuss New Zealand schedule also, and we'll get back to
no, no,
Australia
no. I'm
also.
just,
The current topic.
yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Because I have
Okay, you
told
were
you about
talking about,
Indian
no,
side.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, I got it. But first, I want to tell the viewers that this
Okay,
schedule
okay.
is
Go ahead.
only because of money and greed and power, monopoly in cricket. Nothing has changed. I'm very disappointed, first of all. And looking at India's schedule, again, India is going to Australia against India will be playing against England. So there is nothing
No,
newness
India
to
isn't
this.
going to Australia. Australia will
No,
be coming to India.
Australia will come. Okay, Australia,
Yeah.
India is taking on Australia, England, two Test match series against New Zealand. It will be highly difficult for India. Again, India, Australia, and England, three teams, three top sides will again face this challenge of winning the Test series, and then they have to beat that the other team convincingly to reach the WTC final. So the upper teams, the first three sides will definitely it will be a tough challenge for them. But the bottom sides, I would say the small teams, New Zealand, South Africa, will again fancy their chances of climbing up and playing the WTC final in England after 2 years. Yeah,
I think
yeah,
New
Gaurav.
Zealand will be coming to India. Okay, they will be
Yeah,
playing
yeah,
two
yeah,
test matches, and most likely India gonna
yeah,
dominate them because they don't have a proper spinner in New Zealand team. And
yeah.
I think Sri Lanka will also be coming at home. They will be playing with three test matches, and Australia. I don't know how much dominant Australia gonna be at Asian condition.
This is absolutely ridiculous. I do, I like it's India and India
But
again.
Shobhan,
Every
don't you think
advantage. Yeah,
India has also traveled Australia two times? Okay, so it's
yeah.
time for Australia to come at our condition. So there is nothing wrong about that.
Maybe you could have divided the series. I don't. I fancy if you are playing a four test match series, then play two at home and then play two away. Here, India will be playing WTC final. If after 2 years, then everybody will be saying everybody this this thing of this. I mean, this word will travel again that India is a better, they have dominated in home conditions and now they are playing the final. I don't want that tag which New Zealand is holding right now. Even after winning the WTC final, they're still saying they are a home track bully. I don't want my team, or I don't want India to carry that baggage and play in the WTC final. I wanted India to go to Australia, go to England, go to New Zealand, and play and go to even go to UAE and play Pakistan. So I am highly disappointed. Sri Lanka at this point in time, they won't even if they bring their A side, even if they bring their big guns, I don't think any side can beat India in like their this is a fortress which is very hard to breach. So in my opinion, it will be lopsided contest, and the excitement factor, the WTC final was created just to bring excitement, just to bring the context. You are bringing the context, but you are not bringing quality. So in my opinion, it's shambles for me.
Lucas, you want to say something?
Yeah. Well, I understand why they want to, play India and Australia, all the time. But at the same time, you can't have that every year.
Yeah.
You just have to imagine, England and Australia. Imagine if the Ashes are on every year. That would devalue the Ashes. Devalue the series if it was on every single year. Now, as far as Australia playing in India, I'm unsure how many Test matches that will be. Um, but all I know is that Australia's record in Asia is horrible.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm not gonna, they also play Pakistan away and Sri Lanka as well.
But they will fancy
They
their
could,
chances, Lucas. They will fancy their chances against
the,
Sri
the,
Lanka and
So basically,
Pakistan.
you both are trying to say that once by looking at Indian schedule in World Test Championship, so you are saying that India can definitely go and went on to play final again.
oh, absolutely, yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. This is built for India. Even I feel, I don't know, I get a wild feeling that the WTC
Because
final
they will
team,
be
the fixture
so fun
is
because they
made
will be playing
just to
five
pick
test
India.
matches in England, three test matches in South Africa, and you can say that the two test matches in Bangladesh away. So that doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, it doesn't make any difference actually. India can definitely draw those test series in England and in South Africa, or even win at South Africa. South Africa at best can, I guess, get that. For them it's like saving the series. It's a I feel it's a series win for India in South Africa, because we have seen the South African side. They like, even though they are producing very good results in West Indies, you know how what West Indies cricket like, what is the structure now. So I believe against England, that will be the most toughest series. Other than that, they are all pushovers, I feel, because Bangladesh, New Zealand, Australia, even though Lucas will agree with me, Australia will pose different type of challenge to India, but at the end, four test match series, a foreign team coming, and they won't sustain for 4 days. Even New Zealand the same, they won't sustain for four test match series. Even they might beat India in the first two, but over the course, like, if we are like going forward, four test match series, I fancy India's chances in every. I would, any day I would fancy India.
Because guys, if you take my point of view, I think all the teams are playing three home and three away series, so there isn't much of a difference once you're talking about it is made for India. I don't see like that. I think all the team has an equal opportunity. The only difference which team they are playing with. Okay, moving on, Lucas, this is for you. I am announcing the Australian 2021 to 23 circle that will be playing a World Test Championship. They will be playing five Test matches series versus England at home. Okay, two Test match series versus West Indies at home. Three Test match series versus South Africa at home. Two Test match series versus Pakistan in away. Two Test match series versus Sri Lanka in away, and four Test match series versus India in away. This is the Australian schedule. So, what's your take on that?
Well, my take on that, we all know Australia is very strong at home. They could beat England 5-0. They can, they're probably going to beat West Indies 2-0. So, that's probably 5, 6, 7, that's 7-0, in two matches against two different series. Their challenge will come away. Now, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Australia's last Test series away was in 2014. That's the last time they won any series away. Any series. And that was against New Zealand. Last time they went to Sri Lanka, they got belted 3.
Lucas, I have a point, because I think Australia won against Pakistan in UAE, I believe, in 2019 or 2018.
No, that's when without Steve Smith and David Warner.
Yeah.
They lost. I think they lost that 1-0. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Yep. So but the last time they went to Sri Lanka, they got embarrassed. They lost 3-0.
Yeah.
So I cannot sit here and say they're going to beat Sri Lanka. I can't even sit here and say they're going to beat Pakistan. They could lose. They could lose all Test matches away to Pakistan and Sri Lanka. So I'm just going on their results of previous away series. Of course they're going to be very strong at home, but away series I can't pick them to win any Test matches away. Because they haven't won a series in 2014. So that's just the way it is. Unfortunately, until they win a series away, you can't pick them.
Lucas, I think most of the series away are in Asian condition. Okay, and so that also makes a lot difficult for Australia, right?
Yeah, it's funny though, because they have good players that play spin very well. David Warner plays spin very well. Steve Smith plays spin very well. But last time when they went to India, they actually did pretty good. They actually won a Test match. Steve Smith made that 100 in Pune, which is probably the greatest 100, for a visiting batsman in any conditions. But they still lost that series. And after that Indian series, they played Bangladesh, and they got embarrassed in that first Test match, and they lost that Test. So I maybe against India, I'll give them one Test match. But I won't be surprised if India whitewash them. And I won't be surprised if Pakistan whitewash them, and I won't be surprised if Sri Lanka wash them. So it's just the way it is, unfortunately. But at home, they could win 5-0 against England, and probably going to win 2-0 against the West Indies,
And
and they're
what
going
about
to
South
probably win,
Africa?
and they could probably win 3-0 against South Africa. So they could whitewash at home, and they could lose every Test match away. So that's the model
One
of
more
cricket
question,
Australia.
Lucas. Lucas, tell me, what is the last time Australia beaten South Africa in their home backyard? Do you remember that?
Well, they didn't do it in 2009 or 2018. Sorry, I
Yeah.
think it was 2016 when they had Michael Clark. He made that fantastic 100, against Dale Steyn. I think that was the last time they bet South Africa in South Africa. Last
No,
time
I'm
was South
talking about
Africa.
in their home backyard. I'm talking about in Australia. I think if I know, South Africa has been very dominating in Australia. As they travel well in Australia, I think.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. In Australia, last time South Africa played, they embarrassed us in Hobart.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they won that series. We came back in the pink ball test in Adelaide,
Yeah.
but the series was gone. Rabada caused havoc in that test. He took most wickets, and Fieldlander. Obviously Fieldlander's not going to be there, but they have Nortke, who's a very quick bowler, and he will do very good well in the dropping pitches. And of
Yep.
course, Rabada's coming from injury, and he seems to be back in form in the West Indies series. So that's going to be tough. But South Africa's problem is their batting. In the West Indies series, de Kock was their best player. And he's a wicketkeeper. So I think Australia can bowl them out very low, and win that 3-0. So
Yeah. One more question before we move on to Shobhan. Uh, will Australia will travel to UAE to play Pakistan, or they will move to Pakistan to play with Pakistan?
that's a very interesting one. Now I think they're keen on playing Pakistan in Pakistan. We saw other teams do that. We saw Sri Lanka do that. So I don't see a reason why they wouldn't go to Pakistan. But they could go to UAE. But as far as I'm concerned, that they are ready to go to Pakistan to play matches in Pakistan.
Okay, moving on to Shobhan. Shobhan.
I believe I have little bit like Lucas. My point of view is little different. I will say England versus Australia. I fancy Australia beating England, but not 5-0. I feel maybe 4-0 or 4-1. And second, going to West Indies, they will whitewash West Indies
Yeah.
2-0. Against South Africa, I still believe Australia will definitely find it little bit tough, but Australia is a better side than South Africa in Australian conditions. So three series gone, Australia winning those three home series, and when it comes to away, it will be a test of playing spin. And against
Yep.
Pakistan, I believe they will face little bit of test, but Pakistan is a side. Pakistan is a vulnerable side. Even if you play in UAE or you play in Pakistan, because I have seen them struggling against foreign conditions. New Zealand beat Pakistan in UAE in 2018, where Kane Williamson was batting for 2 to 3 days. Henry Nichols, everybody chipped in. I fancy Australia beating Pakistan in Pakistan because only of one player, that is Manas Labuschagne, Labushkakne, whatever you call it, Labuschagne. Then yeah, and when they will do to Sri Lanka, I fancy, or again I fancy Australia winning it because Sri Lanka, they looking at their cricket structure and the politics going on. You may find some of the key players missing in that series, and even if
I
they
think
fail,
so. When earlier they travel, Australia traveled to Sri Lanka. They have still managed to beat them quite convincingly without
yeah, yeah,
their
yeah.
having a player.
England beat them quite comfortably. We have seen
Yeah.
when India toured first Sri Lanka and then Australia. They thumped them. Actually, they did beat them. They thumped them, and I feel Australia will demolish Sri Lanka. Looking at the side and looking at the mainly the Nathan Lyon, wonderful baller Nathan Lyon. So, and when it comes to India, they will definitely find it tough. They won't be able to. I think they will be humbled in India, but five test match series winning, I fancy Australia going to the top, and they will they will dominate in this WTC cycle. Actually, I feel.
Okay, guys, moving on to New Zealand, firstly, because the show is also increasing.
Yeah.
So, moving on to New Zealand, New Zealand will be playing two Test match series versus Bangladesh at their home, two Test match series versus South Africa at home, two Test match series versus Sri Lanka at home, two Test match series versus India in away, three Test match series versus England in away, and two Test matches series versus Pakistan in away. So, what's your take on that? And I think one more point I want to make. Mostly they, I have already raised question on this. Mostly they play only two test matches. So what's your take on that also? Because in that circle they will be playing only one three test match series that is in England. Okay, so go ahead with that.
Me or
You,
Lucas?
Lucas,
Lucas.
go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Once again, they've gotten a very good draw.
Yeah.
We know their bowlers, are dominant in those kind of conditions. In New Zealand, they set up, green tinged pitches, very suitable for bowling. Even against England, they were dominant. Cole Jamieson was absolutely outstanding. So they have bowlers to wreak havoc in those kind of conditions. And you look at the away teams they play in New Zealand. Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh. That they're not going to
And
cause any
South
problems for New
Africa,
Zealand
and South Africa also
and South
will be
Africa.
turning to New Zealand.
Yeah, they could whitewash those three series at home easily, and they can win the series in England
Yeah.
easily because of their bowlers. Um, so India again, it might be trickle. They could get whitewashed there because they don't have a spinner.
Yeah.
Pakistan, they'll probably be in Pakistan.
Yeah.
But they've already bet Pakistan recently, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
When Kane Williamson, made a double. And that was in UAE. So they're in one of the favourites to probably finish again in that final, or sorry, to be in that final, because they've got a very good draw. Because of their bowling, England's conditions are like New Zealand, and we've seen how deadly Cole Jamieson is
Yeah.
in that World Test final and against England. So for me, they are in pole position to make that final.
And what's your take on that? That they mostly play two test match series.
Yeah. It's like a broken record. It's disappointing. You do want to see 3-4 test matches. They seem to only play those against the bigger nations like England, Australia, and India. And like teams like against West Indies, South Africa, the rest they only play 2 test series. And as Sopan mentioned, that because of money, they just don't pull in the TV rights against teams like Sri Lanka and South Africa as they would India and England and Australia.
So, Soban, your take on that regarding World Test Champion Circle of New Zealand, and mostly they play with two Test matches. So, what's your take on that also?
So at home, it will be quite easy for them. Bangladesh and Sri
Yeah.
Lanka, a little bit tricky against South Africa, but I still fancy New Zealand winning that series. So home is gone. And when it comes to away, actually, I feel it will be very tough for New Zealand because two test matches series, the problem is when you start acclimatizing to the conditions, the first or the two tests are already gone. So it's kind of like double-edged sword for me. It may favor you or it won't. Against India, I think they will be whitewashed because two test match series, India will don't even allow them to come close. England, if I Gaurav, I just want to ask you: are they playing two test match series or three test match series in England?
Three Test match series in England.
Okay, three test match series. I feel again it will be tough if England bring back their bigger players or the marquee players. It will be tough for New Zealand. So maybe I find India and England beating India and England in their home conditions. I think New Zealand will lose both of them. And against Pakistan, again, two test match series. Previously, they played three. First test match, actually, they won because of it was an aberration, I would call, because of some magic. Azaz Patel. But this time around against Pakistan, if they play in Pakistan, I fancy Gaurav. Are they playing Pakistan before India or after India? Are they
I'm
playing?
not confirming. I
Okay,
don't have
if
that
they,
information, but they will
I
definitely be
feel
playing Pakistan.
okay, if they play after India, then they will win because they will be acclimatized to the condition. If they play before, then it will be very tough for them because again, touring Asian side is not easy, and in which they will be
And
mostly
don't
touring.
forget that Pakistan pitches also they are making
Yeah,
rank turners right now.
rank
Okay,
turners. They
forget
will
about
be.
UAE pitches. They are literally true pitches in all 5 days.
But the only thing, Pakistan can capitulate. Pakistan can lose any game, even if they're in the verge of winning. They will definitely throw it away. For New Zealand, they might fancy Pakistan beating them at home, beating them away, but against India and England, it will be tough. So I think New Zealand won't qualify this time around.
Okay, guys, moving on to South Africa. I will announce the South Africa series in World Test Championship. They will be playing three Test match series versus India at home, two Test match series versus Bangladesh at home, two Test match series versus West Indies at home, two Test match series versus New Zealand in away, three Test matches series versus England in away, and three Test match series versus Australia in away. This is the schedule. And what do you think, guys? Lucas, go ahead.
Well, no disrespect to Bangladesh, but anyone that plays Bangladesh, you're going to put down as a whitewash.
Yeah.
And you can probably put the same with West Indies. West Indies showed hope against Bangladesh, and they're just throwing that out of the window against South Africa. So again, if West Indies are playing a team away, you're probably going to say they're going to get whitewashed. Australia is going to be a difficult task for them, and England also will be as well. But with their draw, I just don't think that they'll make the final. I think the away teams that they play, and India as well. They went to India 3 years ago, didn't they? And they got absolutely smashed.
Yeah, hammered. They got
So
hammered.
so I don't see them winning any away series. I don't see them winning a Test match in India. I don't possibly see them winning in Australia. They could pinch one in England, but I don't see them making a play for the final.
Your take,
I
Soban?
think it will be, yeah, I think it will be a disaster for them because the way it is planned, at home, India, Bangladesh, West Indies, they will beat Bangladesh, they will beat West Indies, but India, uh, looking at the conditions and looking at the current Indian outfit, it will be pretty challenging for them. And if we move away against New Zealand, again tough batting on those tough wickets, wind, swinging conditions, they won't favor those conditions. So I feel against New Zealand, they will lose most probably, and against England and Australia, three Test matches, it will be highly an uphill task. It's like a mountain to climb because England, beating England in England with those players back, it's quite tough. Even though people are not rating, but if you add Chris Wokes and if you add Ben Stokes to those sides, they are highly high skilled all rounders. And talking about Australia, if they play at Gabba or at Melbourne, it will be again, it will be quite difficult because if you look at the structure of South African side, they have not got the best of cricketers in those present times because all of them are traveling to England, New Zealand. So they only have a good crop of fast bowlers. But again, you need batting for that. They don't have Hashim Amla, AB de Villiers, Fab du Plessis might be around, but I don't think
No,
he
I
will
think
be
he
able
has
to.
already retired. Faf du
Oh,
Plessis has
he's
already
over.
retired in from Test
So
cricket.
Agent Markram, then Dean,
Kenton
Dean
Bavuma
Elgar,
and Quinton de
yeah,
Kock,
Bavuma, new
Van
captain,
der
new
Dussen.
side, and yeah, Van der Dussen. It will be first time touring a major cricketing side. I feel they will be both the teams will be at their own pace, and they might be humbled and they might be crushed actually in England and Australia, even though the pitches favor them. But it will be highly unlikely if to see South Africa upsetting England or Australia.
Okay, guys, we will not discuss about West Indies and Bangladesh because we know what's gonna happen with them. Okay, final team that is I'm gonna take with England. Okay, Announcing the schedule. Five Test match series they will be playing India at home. Three Test match series versus New Zealand at home. Three Test match series versus South Africa at home. Five Test match series versus Australia in away. Three Test match series versus West Indies in away, and three Test match series versus Pakistan away. Lucas, go ahead, mate.
Yeah, like I said earlier, their bowling will always be strong. With Broad, Anderson, with Rokes, Robinson was very good in those two Test series against New Zealand. But again, their main problem is batting. Their top order, middle order is absolutely a
Lucas,
joke. If
Lucas,
you
Lucas, one more question on that. Is you have said that they have the best probably bowling. They have Anderson and Broad. Don't you think they will play all the test matches in Australia or even in Pakistan?
I think the Ashes series could be Anderson's last.
Yeah.
I think Broad might go on, but Anderson could retire. But if Anderson does retire, they've got Wokes, they've got Robinson. Their bowling depth is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
It's their batting that's the huge problem.
Jofra
You
Archer
know,
will be also making comeback.
yep. They got Jofra, they got Mark Wood. Their batting is going to be a huge problem. Sibley, Root out in England hasn't made 100 in 3 years. Zach Crawley was completely disaster in New Zealand. Ollie Pope was not much better. Bracely was a disaster. So they have to do something with their top order and middle order. Otherwise, if they're going to come to Australia with that batting lineup, I'm sorry, but Cummins, Hazelwood line, they're going to have a field day. And
And
they
why?
may,
Go ahead, mate. Go ahead.
yeah, and they may struggle to get to 200. With their batting lineup in Australia. And if you're only going to make 200 or 250 in Australia, then I'm sorry, you're not going to win anything. So they got big problems with their batting. They have to sort that out. I just don't see how they can turn that around. And I think they can get. I think they're going to get hammered 5-0. Wouldn't be the first time that's happened.
Yeah.
So I just don't see them making any high targets with their batting to trouble Australia.
And they are the only team, I think, if you watch England's schedule, the minimum test match they are playing are three, and the maximum, most of the series are the five test match series. So they like playing test matches more.
Yeah, well, like I said, Australia and England, they're probably the last two remaining Test nations that do prefer to play Test cricket over T20 and ODI. Obviously, you got the Ashes, which is probably the most prestigious Test match series ever. If you want to talk from an England and Australian perspective, Indians and Pakistanis will say, India and Pakistan's Test series is probably just as better. But for obvious reasons, India don't play Pakistan. So England, in Australia, are very happy, playing, 3 Test series, 4 Test series, and they're always going to play Test matches at home. That's a non-negotiable. So that's just the way it is. They draw a lot of money with the ICC. So and they're going to continue playing a lot of Test matches.
Moving on to Soban. Soban, what's your take on England?
Looking at the fixture, I feel it will be tough against India. I believe they will beat India. I think Asian countries actually find it very difficult when they tour England. With the swinging conditions, I fancy England to win against New Zealand. I believe they will beat New Zealand or might draw with New Zealand, maybe 1-0, 1-1. It might happen against South Africa. They will crush South Africa. I feel away home. And when it comes to away, it's an interesting fixture actually. They were traveling to Australia, and as Lucas is so confident that they will beat Australia 5-0, so I have to take Ward. I will definitely take his advice, and I will also go with Australia beating England. And West Indies, they will definitely fancy their chances. And beating West Indies is not a big feat. these days, because looking at the side
But
and
if
looking
you
at
are,
the
if I remember quite properly, I think last time they toured to West Indies, they have lost the series.
they've lost the series, but but the pitches, looking at the pitches, it will be slow and it will be low. Keshav Maharaj took a hat trick, but the great thing that England have, they have fantastic all-rounders. Sam Curran will come into play, Ben Stokes, Chris Wokes, all these players can definitely put up a big total or might squeeze the opponent by picking up wickets at regular intervals. So I feel against West Indies, it won't be a tough, and against Pakistan, uh, I will go with 50-50 because England is a good touring side. They have beaten Sri Lanka, even though they have lost to India massively. I feel I feel I don't know. I get a gut feeling that Pakistan will be easy for every southern hemisphere or every foreign country when they're touring Asian conditions, because India will never give an inch, but Pakistan will definitely bring you into the play. They might humble you, but I feel they will fancy their chances against the Pakistan. So I believe it will be quite tough. But losing to Australia and losing to, and only I feel they will lose to Australia, and I think they will beat everyone in their group.
Yeah,
And guys, Lucas, go ahead.
yeah, well, unlike Australia, England can actually win in Asia. So,
Yeah, yeah,
and I think that last time that England played West Indies, I think Jason Holder made that double hundred.
yeah,
And you're just talking about all rounders. He played magnificently in that Test series. Do you expect him to back up and do it again? Probably not.
no,
So I favour England in that series as well.
yes. And it
Okay,
will
guys.
be because they
Final
come into their own when
question.
the pitch are slow and all.
What's Yeah. Final question from both of you guys. What will be two finalists according to you guys? Lucas, go ahead, mate.
Oh,
I honestly think Pakistan and New Zealand.
Okay.
I'm not going to pick Australia. Sorry. Oh no, I've been very harsh on Australia today, haven't I?
yeah,
Yeah,
we
of
have
course.
been we have been
It's
bashing.
it's just because their away record is just dreadful. So I'm sorry, but until they win a Test series outside Australia, I'm going to be like this. I'm not going to let them get away with that. So no, I think New Zealand and Pakistan for me.
And Soban?
I feel Pakistan. I will pick three teams: Pakistan, Australia, and India. I believe, but Pakistan. I'm going with with my mind. My heart is actually saying Pakistan won't qualify. If there is another country again, India, Australia, and England, in my opinion, they will be the favorites. But if I pick only two and you put a gun on my head, I will choose India and Australia, because I know Australia, even though they don't have those legendary cricketers that they used to have in 20th century. But currently, if I look at the squad, I get the hope. I get a lot of inspiration by the kind of characters they have. Manas Labuschagne and again the players those are coming up the ranks. Steve Smith, I feel, will play a major role when they tour Pakistan and India, and I feel they will definitely upset. I think maybe they may upset India, but it will be a it will be a far bigger task for them. But against Pakistan, they will definitely tramp Pakistan.
And who will be the captain of Australia when Australia tours to India? Lucas, you have answer of that?
Well, thank you for taking down memory lane. Bringing up the golden generation with Brett Lee, Glenn McGrath, and Shane Warne. Those are the days. They were fun. At least back then we could actually win outside Australia.
Yeah.
Of course, be Steve Smith for me. I think he'll be the captain in the Indian series.
Okay. I think
I
someone
think
has told
I want to
this
have my opinion. I feel it will be Manas Labuschagne. I
good
don't know,
chance.
but
Soban?
I feel Australia definitely. Australia will pick Manas Labuschagne as captain, because looking at the reports and looking at the players talking about Australia, the legendary cricketers, they find Steve Smith is not in contention, even though Steve Smith has accepted and he has served. But I feel the Australian community is not ready to accept Steve Smith as captain, and community plays a big role while picking the captain, as they say, it's the second important job in Australia. So I believe Manas Labuschagne will be the captain.
Okay, we'll discuss some other day. This is the very fresh topic, the very hot topic we have, that who will be the captain of Australia. Moving on to the next question. 2018-22 में हम ऑस्ट्रेलिया गए थे लास्ट टाइम, एंड इंडिया 2016 में आए थे, तभी भी आपको इंडिया को ऑस्ट्रेलिया में खिलाना है. ओके, इज आस्किंग ऑस्ट्रेलिया हैव इंडिया हैव टोल्ड टू मेनी टाइम्स ऑस्ट्रेलिया, एंड दिस इज आवर turn. We will be hosting Australia and our home.
Yeah.
Okay,
Australia is
so
very
guys,
fancy. Really, I believe it's a profit for Cricket Australia. It's a big series, getting 4 Test match series. I mean, the Cricket Australia, if they fund, like I mean, if there is some financial issue, that will go. That will go after
Yeah.
after the tour. But for players, it will be pretty hard, I believe.
Lucas,
Well,
you have one
let's hope.
question.
Yeah. Let's just hope there's a crowd. Let's just hope COVID goes down. I heard that it's improving in India.
Yeah,
But
40,000 right now.
Lucas, it's pretty hard. I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
say better stay at
Still-
home.
still
because
a
I
long
want
way to
the
go.
series, yeah. I don't want any series to get cancelled amidst
Yeah.
a Test series. It's better people stay at home and will watch the games.
Yeah. Now you mentioned about cancelled. Australia have already cancelled 2 away tours.
Oh my God.
They cancelled Bangladesh and they cancelled South Africa. So I don't want to panic anybody, but it wouldn't surprise me if Australia did pull out of that Indian series. I don't think they will,
Okay.
because it is a big
Uh,
series, but it won't
yeah.
surprise me.
Lucas,
I think they
the
will
point you
tour
raised
Australia.
actually.
This is the bilateral.
Wait, Gaurav,
Because
I
this is
just
the
want to
bilateral. This is they will definitely tour.
actually
Go ahead, Gaurav.
Lucas. Lucas, it will be pretty interesting if you look. Australia pulled out of a South African tour because I feel 1,000 cases arrived and there was some cases in the hotel. But amidst COVID, where there was 350,000, 400,000 people suffering from COVID, dying in the streets, still Australia, Steve Smith, David Warner wearing PPE kits, traveling from one city to another. I can't
Yeah.
get this. I mean, you
Yeah.
pull international tour away, you just kick it away, and you come to IPL. It's the hotspot. I mean, COVID. The hotspot of the new hotspot is India. So,
And so
like,
one more
I'm
point I
pretty
have,
sure.
because of the cancellation of the South Africa tour, they didn't made the final of World Test Championship final. If they have played to the South
Yeah.
Africa tour, they would have gone to the World Test Championship final.
But Lucas, do you think Australian cricketers this generation prefers money over, over international duty? Do you think that like where there is money, the players will run after it? I find New Zealand players doing it and West Indies players doing it. So like it's a very positive way. I'm asking this question. Do you feel?
Well,
And one more question you want to take, because Samath is asking you why Australia are not playing Khwaja and Test. Go ahead with that
Okay.
also.
Just
Okay.
first question. Yeah.
So addressing your first question, Australia and the cricket board, and CEO, when James Sutherland was the CEO, they had a major dispute over pay, and and Cricket Australia, the players, were saying that we're going to pull out, we're not going to play cricket, and the CEO folded to them, and they gave them a lot of money. So they're getting paid very well, even in T20 matches. So when push came to shove, James Sutherland gave in, and they got a major pay rise. I think I'm just trying to think. I think that was the same year when South Africa went to Australia and they got embarrassed. I think that was 2018. So in 2018 they got their major pay rise. Now, as far as like, do they prefer money than Test cricket? I've always said, if there's a Test series going on and you play IPL, you lose your right to play for Australia. I don't care if you're Steve Smith, David Warner, Pat Cummins. You pick IPL over a Test series, you should never play for Australia again. That's just me. I hope it will never come to that. I know England players are threatening to do that. But I hope Australian cricketers will never ever put themselves in that situation. Now, as regards Khawaja not playing in Test squad anymore, unfortunately, Khawaja's Sheffield Shield form for Queensland have been very poor. Now, Marnus Labuschagne plays in the same team,
Yeah.
and he takes all the spotlight from Khawaja. In the Sheffield Shield final, Marnus Labuschagne made 192, and then Khawaja made a low score in that same final. So he's out of favour with Cricket Australia because he's not performing in Sheffield Shield. While Marnus Labuschagne is, he averaged, 70 plus last season and made that 190 in that final against New South Wales, who had Hazelwood and Lyon and Stark. So Khawaja needs to perform at Sheffield Shield level, and he's just not doing that at the moment. And until he does, he won't be picked.
Okay.
Yeah, and Gaurav, if you remember when we were interviewing Charles from Crick Blog, who
Crick
also known
Blog.
as Crick Blog, so he made a very important point that Quasar is I feel is a lackadaisical character. Like he has his own terms, the way of living, and he is not a yes man of Cricket Australia. In India,
Yeah.
I can vouch for it. In India, if you are a yes man, then you will definitely get into the Indian team. For example, Raidu took on the board. In the past, anybody who took any action or took on the board, they got dropped. They were vanished. They were not even close in the reckoning. So I believe Quasar has fallen out of favor, and I think Cricket Australia has moved on from Quasar because he's playing for Islamabad. He's playing for different leagues, and I feel once you play in all these leagues, I believe in this second tier leagues, I believe you will definitely you can definitely get an outside knowledge about what Quasar and Cricket Australia position is in Australia.
I think there is an issue for fielding also for Gusman Khwaja. He doesn't a quick mover, I think, in field, so that also doesn't go in favor of him.
Yeah, it's just not Khawaja as well. It's Mitchell Marsh. They're out of favour. It's Peter Hanscom. He won't play Test cricket again. Glenn Maxwell. He won't play Test cricket again. He made 100 in India last tour.
Yeah.
He's completely gone. Aaron Finch is done with Test cricket. If you fall out of Test cricket with Australia, it's going to be very, very hard to get back into that side, especially when you've got other players around them making runs. Like Will Pucovski. When Will Pucovski was going, Marcus Harris, he couldn't even get in. Travis Head couldn't even get in. He's out of favour with the Australian Test team. And he didn't get a contract. So once you're out of favour, it's very, very hard to get back in.
Yeah, and
Okay.
actually Harsha Bhogle, one renowned commentator, made a very good point that in the if we are if we go back to 2020 or to 2000 2005 or 1999, we never heard a player named Khwaja or any player from another origin playing for Australia. Actually, it's a big moment. Usman Khwaja playing for Australia sends a big message to the Australian community. The multiculturalism they bring in. I feel Usman Khwaja was also very important in terms of sending a message, because Australia as a society will definitely feel better if a player named Usman Khwaja will play. Actually, I find I don't know why I said that, but it's a very good point that came into my mind.
Yeah, well, Khawaja, he's Pakistan born.
Yeah.
I also have another bowler called Farad Ahmed. He was
I think
good.
one bowler who was played for Australia, I think he was Sandhu, and his
Yeah,
father played
there is
for
a
India.
Sandhu.
Yes.
Yeah, and his
Yeah, he
father played
plays.
for India.
No. His father didn't play for India. No.
Yeah, Sandhu. Yeah, he plays domestic cricket for New South Wales.
Domestic.
But Farad Ahmed, he's been linked to playing. He won't now, but he was linked previously to play for Australia as a spinner. And speaking of spinners, this is the reason why they've got big series in India. Outside of Nathan Lyon, there's not really many spinners going on in Australia.
Because there is a spinner called Tanveer Sangha. He will tour West Indies. It will be a brilliant achievement. I mean, for him, he has traveled from Punjab to India. His father traveled very early, so Tanveer Sangha, keep your eyes on him, because he will be a serious talent, I feel.
Yeah, we've got Mitch Swepson, who'll most likely be the backup to. He'll be the second spinner, in the Indian tour, but I think he's too young. I think he's not ready
But
yet.
let me tell you, because
Uh,
I think whenever I see Swepson, he has really improved as a bowler. He
yeah,
has very good quality as a spin bowler, and he can take lots of wicket in Asian condition. So you have to give a chance to
yeah,
Swepson.
yeah. He will no doubt play in that Indian series. He'll be the second pick bowler. So I think he might struggle a bit, but I hope I'm wrong, because Nathan Lyon cannot do it by himself. He does need help. I've conceded that the pace bowlers, no matter how good Hazelwood and Cummins is, they're not going to do much. That's just the way it is in India. Fast bowling, doesn't, no matter how good you are, you're always going to struggle. And Nathan Lyon cannot do it by himself. If he's the majority wicket holder, then there's huge problems. Shrepson, he needs to step up, take 10, 15 wickets in that series.
Okay, I think they will pick two spinners. I think earlier in
Yeah.
2016 or 17 series they played with Nathan Lyon and Oki, so definitely there will be two spinner in this tour also.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Stephen O'Keefe is retired, so
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just
yeah,
telling you that the last
yeah,
time they told they definitely picked two spinner in their team. So definitely
yeah,
this time
yeah.
they will also be picking two spinners in their playing 11. I know that Steve Oki has retired from international cricket.
Well, that's what Trepson needs to do. He needs to do what O'Keefe did. He took 7 wickets in Pune.
Yeah.
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 He
But
needs to
he's
do
also a
a
bad
top of,
guy. He's also a bad
yeah.
guy in Great Australia. Yeah.
And he's still playing Big Bash
Yeah.
League, by the way. He's still playing Big Bash League.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. Yeah, but
He has a drinking problem. Yeah.
sadly O'Keefe has had off-field problems.
Yeah. Lot of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, so commenting on women and stuff like that, I won't get into that. But unfortunately, with that, he's been cut from the team. But if he was still going today, in domestic New South Wales, he probably would be picked. But yeah, he doesn't play domestic no more. So except for the Big Bash.
And Lucas,
Okay.
is there any comment going on, like New Zealand winning the final? Is there like is this as New Zealand in the same zone, trans-Tasman rivals? Even though, do you think Australian public rate this New Zealand side as winners, or they still want New Zealand to beat them at home to become the world champions? What do you feel?
Yeah, that's actually a good point. That there hasn't been actually much talk on this final, which has been pretty disappointing. Because it is a final, it is a big event. But sadly, the media, television, they haven't really picked it up here, which is a little bit disrespectful. No, I'll try to be careful here because I don't want to, make the whole nation angry at me. But there's this arrogance that as long as Australia do well at home, it doesn't matter what they do away.
Yeah.
So they've got India and Pakistan. They could lose all those matches, but as long as they win the Ashes, no one really cares. Which is very arrogant, and it's a poor message, because the only real press that Australia ever had away, when they lost the series away, was against Bangladesh. And the media pressure, television was on radio, they went absolutely bonkers, when they lost that test match against Bangladesh. And, when they played England before they went to South Africa, when they won the Ashes, against Perth, Steve Smith was getting questions about that South African tour while the Ashes was going on. And they really felt pressure in that for the first time ever, going to a away series, and they felt, I won't bring up what happened in South Africa because we all know what happened, but that was the only time in probably 5-6 years that Australia faced real pressure to win away series, outside of Australia. The media here is very forgiving.
Yeah.
So as long as they win at home, that's all good, which is an arrogant, cocky way.
And Gaurav, just to word one more word, what Lucas said. Actually, the legendary commentator from ABC, Jim Maxwell, he also referred that if you win on Australia, then it doesn't matter. If we are winning in Australia, then it's okay. And but if you go away, like the media doesn't cover. I believe that in when Australia toured South Africa, SEN, I guess they were the last. They got the rights. Even nobody was ready to cover the series, because I have seen ABC before 2015 covering all the series, touring with the Australian team. I don't feel any radio station want to cover that like series coming home. Like they don't. I think there's a lot of problem in Australian media as well. They're not ready to travel abroad. So I feel there's a lot of like I believe they're losing a lot of radio commentary. Like you better answer this, Lucas. They're not, ACN is not even covering, and a lot of ABC is not interested. I believe going away, going in the future, I think the interest is going down.
Well, they've got an Ashes series, in December, January. They can win that series. They will feel no pressure going to India and Pakistan. Because we've seen what happened under real pressure. What they did in South Africa, where it absolutely fell apart. That was the only time they felt real pressure to win away series. So the media won't do that again. So I have a feeling that there'll be no expectations going to India. There'll be no expectations going to Pakistan. I won't let them get away with it. As you said, I've mentioned today. I will clearly remind everybody that they haven't won a Test series outside Australia since 2014. I don't give a damn what anybody says. I'm not going to sweep that under the carpet. But it is disappointing that the media, the journalists, let them get away with that. But it's been like that for years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, guys, it's time to wrap the show. Thank you, Lucas, for coming to my show. Shovan, thank you very much. You have also taken a time out to come to my show. Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure talking with you guys. We are discussing with the World Test Championship circle. So thank you, guys, for coming to my show. It's time to wrap the show. वीडियो पसंद आया तो लाइक करें, सब्सक्राइब करें, बेल आइकन को भी जरूर दबाएं, कोशिश करें, देख रहे हैं फिर भी सब्सक्राइब नहीं कर रहे हैं तो सब्सक्राइब जरूर करें, और मुझे इंस्टाग्राम और ट्विटर पे फॉलो कर सकते हैं गौरव के नाम से। तो आज के लिए इतना ही रहने देते हैं, तब तक के लिए शुभ रात्रि, शुभ रात्रि, शुभ रात्रि, और अपना ध्यान रखें। थैंक यू गाइस फॉर मेकिंग आवर शो एक्साइटेबल।
Welcome.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be on. Thank you.